Occupy has to be seen in the long term. It takes a decade, 2 decades, for dramatic social movements to unfold. And what Occupy did was, for the first time really since the 1930s, it put the issue of class back at the center of American politics in a very simple, intelligible, and yet radical way, by saying that there is 1% who has used their economic power to control the political system. So to expect a dramatic movement to unfold in half a year or so and change the course of American history is just, it's completely naive, it's unrealistic, it goes with everything we know about history and how social movements operated. There's a lot of great projects going on around the country, around a housing foreclosure movement and home defense, the student movement against tuition increases and debt moratorium, lots of activity around environmental issues. There's campaigns to take down big banks, particularly Bank of America, which is still in crisis, and to force the government to break it up if it needs to step in, and on and on. Just a lot of amazing organizing. At the same time, one cannot deny that Occupy is struggling to regain the prominence it had last fall. It's now clearly under severe attack by the state. The incidents in Cleveland and Chicago in the first half of May with these FBI traps, and that's exactly what they are, where they're taking these naive young men who are on the fringe of society and then completely manipulating them into participating in these plots, and then the FBI announces, essentially, we foiled our own plot.
Why is the FBI doing that?
They have a vested interest in doing it. The war on terror has very much been about a war on the domestic front. It's just Americans haven't really paid much attention because it's been going on against Muslim Americans who've been effectively demonized. There has also been low-level repression that's been going on against radical environmentalists, animal rights movement, the anarchist movement over the last decade or so, where we see the use of FBI infiltrators and informants to set people up on completely bogus charges. Eric McDavid is a classic case. The guy did absolutely nothing, but is now serving a 20-year sentence for what he said. It's purely a thought crime. So this is now being used in a concerted effort against the Occupy movement because the state sees the Occupy movement as a threat. For the FBI, it justifies their powers, it justifies their funding, and it justifies the repressive apparatus of the state and the continuation of the war on terror. So of course they're going to continue this. I mean, the FBI was begun as a domestic repression body shortly after World War I during the Red Scare. That's what they've always been used for. They're nothing more than organized terrorism run by sadistic thugs.
Be doing?
Of course, the issues of income inequality are not going to go away. It's getting worse than ever. The outsourcing and automation of jobs is getting worse than ever. Over the next 20 years, it's estimated something like 35 million jobs will be lost to a combination, in this country alone, will be lost to a combination of outsourcing and automation, because corporations can always make more money by getting rid of labor. And so we're going to see more concentration of wealth, and with that concentration of wealth, we're going to see more wars internationally because that serves their interests, and we're going to see more repression domestically because that serves their interests. The only solution is to fight back or to crawl in a hole. And so I think what people need to do is realize they're in it for the long haul, to work with people who are committed, who will take care of each other, who work democratically in a respectful, compassionate, political manner, and to have fun doing it. You know, the movement should not become angry and bitter, right? This movement was joyous to behold in the beginning, and it needs to retain that sense of joy and creativity at its heart. You know, and it's the long haul. The civil rights movement took decades. The women's movement took decades. The anti-Vietnam War movement took well over 10 years. And this is a bigger fight than, in some ways, than all those movements.
Do you think Occupy itself, you know, as a meme, will retain relevance over the next, you know, the course of the next few years?
Maybe not. You know, I think it hit on something very important, that the occupation showed how important space is to the formation of independent democratic movements. Public space has been so colonized by corporations, so chopped up, so privatized, so surveilled and repressed, that the Occupy movement showed us having public space where people can gather together, exchange stories, exchange and find commonality, provides the basis for building an alternative type of politics, and more important, an alternative society, one that can really fulfill people, instead of the role public space currently plays as a site of consumption, where you go shopping, out to restaurants, to sporting events, to see movies. You know, that's what capitalism wants public space for, just as another means to accumulate wealth. We need public space to create and nurture different societies.
Thanks, Arun.
Okay.
That's important.